I would like to thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. We are super excited. Also, of course, we have read your books and we know you, but it is special to have the opportunity to share thoughts, and also for our students to have this dialogue also with you. It is also a great moment of connecting generations and the young students that we have now that are the leaders of the future. So I think it's going to be a great moment. So thank you so much. Thank you. It is a pleasure, really. And I would like to introduce Izaskun Turbitus. She's the professor and has been organizing this seminar also with you and with your team. So Izaskun, it will be great if you can also give some introduction also, yes, just to generate the context to this seminar.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Welcome everyone here. We are really excited to have you here, Alice. I would like to thank Alina also, the person who is behind the zine, and our technician Alvaro and everyone who is behind this for the opportunity to make it happen. No, it's like a small miracle, and sometimes we forgot about it. So thank you very much. And when I was thinking about what should I tell you, and how can I introduce someone like Alice Waters, it was really difficult. I mean, we can be talking about you for years, for days, and so on. But probably for me, one of the things that I wanted to highlight is that probably in this age of uncertainty, the one thing is completely sure, that I'm sure that gastronomy won't be the same without you, Alice, because you have taught us that food is not just what we eat or what we do or what we grow or what we have been studying. I am a food technologist as well, but that is one of the main or the important motors that we can have to change the world. And I think that's something that we do also in the Basque Culinary Center. We are only 10 years old. We are celebrating loads of anniversaries. Today, you are celebrating the anniversary as well of Chef Anise. We are celebrating a small one, only 10 years old. But we have been also trying to educate young people to spark the power of gastronomy to change the world. And in 10 years' time, we can see that probably we can feel the difference. So I cannot imagine what have you done in the last decades. I mean, you are a chef, you have your own business, you are activist, you are an educator. I mean, you have so many titles that we can think about it, but probably one thing that I'm sure that can define you is the passion for gastronomy. And that's something that we really admire you and trying to transmit our students as well. It's also a pleasure being here with some of our students, and you can have also the opportunity of seeing other 20 years old girls starting their businesses and their careers like you did many years ago, no? Who can imagine that small girl, 20 years old, coming back from France, no? And starting a business, and who could think what inspiring things and marvelous things you have done. So for us, it's a pleasure because in this hour, probably it's also an opportunity to help and to inspire many students that are here, that they are 20 years old like you were when you started your career. And well, we are dying to listen to your thoughts and to see that you are not the only one important in the gastronomy, but the network that you create with all the peoples behind, all the people working with you, the farmers, the suppliers, the people who were working with you have been so important for you. This is something that is very funny, just to finish, because we talk about open innovation and we think it's a very modern concept. And our students read really surprised when they realized that you were doing all these things about slow food, network, creating a creativity together almost 40 years ago. And it's amazing to have here and trying to inspire all these new students to make the world change, because we need it. So thank you very much for you to be here.
Well, it's a real pleasure for me to talk to you. I wanted to come to the Institute for a very long time, and I promise you that I am coming the moment I'm able to travel. But this is a very special moment in time, and I feel a real sense of hope. I guess I've never really lost it, because I was part of the free speech movement in Berkeley, California in 1964. And I realized that we could stop the war in Vietnam. I felt like we could help with civil rights. And I just said, if we all got together, we could make something happen. And I've never lost that hopefulness, really. When I went to France when I was 19, I went and I lived in what I like to say a slow food nation. It was when people really only ate food that was from that area where they lived. Now, I stayed in Paris, and every day walking to school, I walked up the market street, and it was only food from northern France. Maybe there was a little olive oil from the south of France, I'm not sure. But really all the fresh food was from there. Maybe some oysters from Brittany. But each part of the city had its own marketplaces. Sometimes they would be in the daytime, some at night. Students came home for 2 hours to have lunch with their families. And of course, students were allowed to go to all the concerts and all the museums for free. So I just thought, how beautiful. Little restaurants that were affordable for students. I just fell in love with that way of life. And of course, I came back and I said, I want to live like the French. And that is what I've been trying to do. But living like the French in a fast food culture is pretty difficult. And I am now just finished a manifesto that's called We Are What We Eat. And it's a slow food manifesto. I have to say, though, that something very important happened also in my life besides being in France in 1964. And that was going and learning Montessori education in London in 1968. I can't believe I was in London in 1968, but I was. And I was, again, completely taken by that way of education. It was about the senses, that we need to be touching and smelling and tasting and listening and seeing and hearing. And the reason that Montessori started her project of this pedagogy was because she was worried that children who lived in poverty and hunger were sensorily deprived. Sensorily deprived. And so she felt that if she gave them practical life exercises, that they would be able to see the world around them. Well, I think that a fast food culture in the last 50 years, 60 years in this country has made us all sensorily deprived. We want everything fast, cheap, and easy. We believe that more is better. that time is money, that nothing's better than making money, that it's okay to eat in your car, that the whole idea of eating together at the table, to be cooking. This is drudgery now, cooking and farming. And it has indoctrinated us in a way that we need that Montessori pedagogy in our public schools. And that's where I have been working for the past 25 years, as you probably know, in one school in Berkeley, California, a middle school with 1,000 kids, teenagers. And I took edible education and Montessori education and I put them together. And I said, well, what if we teach the academic subjects in the garden or in the kitchen classroom? What would happen? Well, of course, the kids all like to do their math classes and science classes and art classes out in the garden. All kids want to be outside in nature. And of course, the kids want to be cooking in the kitchen. And so they're cooking the food of the culture they're studying, maybe in a history class. They're studying Mexico. And they're making a tortilla soup. And they're eating, a jicama salad. But they made it themselves. And they might be even speaking Spanish. And they're digesting the values of, stewardship and nourishment and community and diversity. And if we don't really teach this, we are going to really lose our humanity. And I feel like we already have begun. And we will not take care of the planet, which supports us. We are part of this planet and nature. So the great news of 25 years of doing the Edible Schoolyard, and it's now has a network of maybe almost 7,000 schools around the world. I have no idea what's going on in the schools, except that they believe in these values. And some probably have school lunches that are wonderful. Some of them maybe have beautiful gardens. Some may just have garden flower pots or, inside the classroom. But they are all believing that it's important to connect students to nature through food. All of them believe this, all of them. And the power of food is something unimaginable. And I have been following that basically since Chez Benny's opened. I wanted people to come to pretend like it was my home. I opened a restaurant in a house with only one menu because I didn't want to waste any food. And I wanted people to feel like they were coming to my house for dinner. So I wanted it to be really good, because if it wasn't good, they probably wouldn't come back. So the success of the restaurant was making really tasty food. So I was on the search from day one. And it wasn't easy to find. I went to farm stands. I asked neighbors whether I could pick the lemons off their trees in their backyards. I tried to find everything in the neighborhoods. And ultimately, I ended up at the doorsteps of the organic farmers and ranchers, because that was where taste was. And taste was also with seasonality. So the moment that we stopped buying things year round, the moment we did that, and it was sort of a shock for our clientele not to keep on having tomatoes go on beyond the 3 months that we had them at the restaurant. But it was, at first, it felt like a straitjacket for us. And now we feel like it's the greatest thing we ever did. It's a liberation. It's like we never, right now, another citrus that I have is this little Kishu Mandarin, which is available only for 2 months right now. It's tiny and no seeds, and it's completely easy to peel. So you can the kids can take these, eat 10 at a time. But it's something so irresistible that I send this around the country to all the politicians I want to impress. And believe it or not, they write me back. And they thank me for this little taste. And I have to taste it. But it wakes you up. And I know it does for these people. But I call it Kishu Diplomacy. And I use this idea of taste, as Carlo Petrini does in Slow Food, to win people over. So I'm never talking really about health. I'm never talking about you should eat this or you shouldn't eat that. I'm talking about something that will wake them up, they will be curious about. They will say, oh, what is that? Could I have more of that? And that's the approach for the Edible Schoolyard Project, that we are seeing food as love, which it is. I'm in love with it. And so we're giving this to the students. We're empowering them to cook for themselves and their friends and to fall in love with nature. Because until we do that, we're never, ever going to be able to address climate change. We're never going to be able to really address health, because health begins in the soil. In the soil. That is what's going to rebuild our immune system, is regenerative agriculture. I call it regenerative organic agriculture. So I have a big plan for the University of California and for every school, every particularly culinary schools, is to decentralize, to buy locally from the farmers and the ranchers, everybody, fishers, everybody who takes care of the land, the sea, and is able to support the farm workers. So I am willing, and I always have at Chez Panisse, been willing to pay the real cost of food. Without a middleman, it's quite easy to do. We pay a little bit more, but I can't tell you, I count on those precious people for the goodness of the restaurant. And for my own pleasure, I want that connection. But we started taking our scraps back to Bob Kennard really early on. He insisted on having them. He's an hour away, our main farmer. And then we brought all the vegetables back to the restaurant. And then he'd ask us questions. Why didn't you use the stems of the chard? And we said, I don't know why we didn't use them. Why don't we use the stems of the chard? Why don't we make stock that's vegetable stock, use all the stems of all of these things? Why aren't we doing that? And then he started bringing us stinging nettles. Do you know stinging nettles that are a weed in his garden? He says, you know, you cook these with garlic and olive oil, and they are very nutritious, and they're incredibly delicious. So we started making a pizza with them. And now everybody loves nettle pizza. And so this is this back and forth, the knowledge that these people have of the land. Carlo has always called the farmers and the ranchers the intellectuals of nature, of land. And they bring to me this kind of knowledge that I would never be able to have otherwise. The biodiversity is what blows my mind right now. Can you believe it? We have 10 colors of carrots. That means one day in school, you could have a purple carrot salad. The next day, it could be 3 colors. It could be different shapes. And this is what takes you through the colder months, is the beauty and the biodiversity like we have in the summer with tomatoes. Every shape, every color, it's something that inspires our cooking at the restaurant in a way that nothing else could. No book learning could capture your attention in the way that that level of biodiversity can. And I guess that's really what I wanted to communicate to you, that at this time of the pandemic, we are trying to keep all our suppliers alive. And so we're doing food to go every single day, which is a real struggle for us. We never cook like this. We always are tasting together. We're always, it's a collaboration. Somebody makes a dish, and then we all taste that dish and refine it. So we're thinking about the running of the restaurant in a different way too. And if I am successful with this wonderful offer that I've had to do an edible education institute at the University of California, Davis, we are going to have a regenerative cooking school. So what that means to me is that there will be no back of the house. There will be no kitchen dish room that isn't beautiful. I want the dishwasher to be having windows to look out. I want it to be tiled. I want it to be him or her to be able to see the kitchen, to know how important that job is to the whole experience. I want the place where the vegetables are delivered. In the basement, normally, that's full of recycling and garbage. I don't want that anymore. I want the farmers to come in and to be offered a cup of tea or have a place to stop, maybe something to eat from the restaurant. I want them to be valued. And that is something that we have never done in the restaurant business in this country. I know that it probably happened when restaurants were small all over the world, but it has never been that way. And we consider a hierarchy of jobs, and I want to change that pyramid and make it a circle. And that, for me, is our future. That is really something that is about everybody's lives matter. There's no really a place for demeaning jobs when it comes to food, for sure. I don't want demeaning jobs for any business. But when you're talking about something precious like food, it is essential. And I think we're all the leaders of this idea. We believe in human rights. We believe in that we're part of nature and that we are, in a sense, we're in a place of beauty. And I can't say enough about that in terms of the restaurant. I never just wanted it to be about food. I wanted beautiful flowers in the restaurant that reflected the moment in time. So we would be having cherry blossoms right now. We would be anticipating the cherries in June. We would never have flowers that were imported from any place else. But it wasn't just flowers. We wanted to have the people who came and spoke at the University of California. We wanted to invite those dignitaries to come and have dinner and sort of understand the hospitality of Japanese. And they brought us so much. I mean, we had the Dalai Lama, but we also had dancers and musicians, and we had Caetano Veloso, and we had Mark Morris, and we had people that enriched our lives. And so the restaurant is a gathering place and a place of hospitality. And we want to give to people who have given to us in this extraordinary way. And so that is something that has brought a dimension of beauty into my life that I can never, ever repay. I'm in debt to 50 years of that kind of richness. And so you are so lucky to be at the beginning of that journey. And I can't wait to come to your restaurants, to your places when I can travel again. But I think I will just end here and answer your questions. Does that sound right?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alice, for your thoughts and sharing part of your emotions and feelings also with us. It's very important for us also to understand where you come from and how rich your life is. And you can feel that even in the distance, that we are thousands of kilometers away. Just thinking that the restaurant, as you say, is a gathering place, no? We gather around the food, we gather in special places that are called restaurants, and we are missing them as well. Yes, we are really missing due to the situation. So I think Claudia, Jana, Sole have some questions for you. And of course, I invite the rest of the participants that are listening to us to write some questions as well and to chat, okay? So I can read them to Alice later, okay? So please. And the last thing I would like to say is that also as a woman and from a different generation that I'm in my 40s, I really admire also your power and your way of changing the world in a very male-dominated area. So I think also from the gender perspective, it's also important to have role models like you, also for the rest of the women that are going to change the world as you already have done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to say that I had great women mentors. I didn't seek them out. It's strange, but I found them. Elizabeth David and Diana Kennedy and Cecilia Chang and Lulu Perot and just and Mater Joffrey, all in different, coming from different countries and places. But I became very good friends with them. And 3 of them are over 100. Sadly, 2 of them just died, over 100. But all are in their 90s. And I can't say enough about that gift to me. I always had somebody there that sort of, took care of me when I went to China. I was, a kid when I went to China the first time, and Cecilia just showed me the food of China when there wasn't any there. And she knew about how to find it. And
yes, it's true that we have to gather and we have to share as well our knowledge to the next generations. Yeah.
Always. There's no holding in. There's not any recipe I wouldn't give away. Somebody wanted me to trademark the name of Chez Panisse, my partners. I said, no. Why? If somebody opens a restaurant that's as good as Chez Panisse, well, more power to them.
Yeah, I think that's something that you have already done, no? Sharing all your knowledge, and it has probably come back to you in 1,000 times higher, no?
I just
that's
can't.
The power.
Please ask me questions.
Okay, come on, Claudia, Sole, Jana. Would you like to start?
Yeah.
Oh.
Jana.
Me? Okay. Well, yes, actually, I was wondering because in my past I've made some very abrupt decisions, and I feel like from that point of view, I was so curious in the 50 years that you have worked, and I know you've been such a pioneer in the in what you've been doing, and I feel like you have had such a force behind the ideas that you had. And therefore, I was very curious if you had maybe like a view on what have been one of your best decisions, or maybe not the best decisions, but like the most important ones that you have learned from the most. Because I feel like I'm sure you have made like in your whole history like so many important ones, and maybe it's very complicated to pick one. But I was just curious that like what have been like the key ones that you've been like, oh, this was really good, or this was not as good, but I've learned a ton from this as well.
I think the most important thing, people have asked me this before, but I never feel like I compromised my values. Don't compromise. Don't compromise. People have offered me to open up other restaurants and do all of that, money for this, money for that, and we put your name here, that, and I never wanted to do that. It has never been about money for me. And I have to say that I'm lucky that at the beginning, I had friends who took care of me, and I stayed at their houses during the first years of Chez Panisse because I didn't make any money. But that is probably the most important decision, I mean, way of thinking about the restaurant that's been most important. Is never make a decision on how much money you can make. Got to make a little, but no.
Wow, that's an important issue that we are always talking about, values, and the opportunities. Sometimes opportunities come without values, and you have to decide. So that's fantastic to hear.
I think that's amazing because it shows such a strength also in what you believe in, and of course you have to have that from the start, obviously, because if not, you do not evolve a revolution like you did. But it's like it's still amazing to hear that you stick to your values, and yeah, no, it's incredibly inspiring for young students.
I think then you never feel bad. You're always, it's because money can't buy you. Money can't buy you love. You know, it's really in that place. And so if that's never your goal, if it's always about, giving somebody a taste of something, it really redirects. It comes back to you too. Really comes back to you. The restaurant, I never wanted it to be too expensive for my friends to come. And so that's why we opened the cafe, so that it could have that balance. And that was terribly important to me too.
That's amazing. And I'm sorry, I know I'm not allowed to ask a second question, but it just occurs to me.
You are, come on.
Hearing that, what would you say is the thing that you are most proud of? Because you have reached so many things in your life, but what I'm hearing now, it's that you mainly go from the feeling, from what's like closest to you. What would you say is the proudest thing that you have reached in your life?
But the first thing that came to my mind with a few tears in it is my daughter. My daughter, that she grew up in that garden. I edibly educated her, but that she's her own person and her values are so connected to mine. And she's a sensualist. And she wrote a book called Always Home, if you can imagine, that came out during this time. And so there she is. I'm on book tour with her. And it was about her life with me. So you can find out how impossible I was. I mean, when you're uncompromising, you're also a little hard on people. And I hope everybody who works with me understands that it's not personal. We're just trying to get to this place that we can only get to through a collaboration, rather than the sum of the parts.
That's amazing. Like, to me, it got, I don't know, I guess like to everybody, but it does come so close to heart because everybody is at home and with Corona times, and you just appreciate even more what you have very close, and it makes you very proud of what you have near and the people you have close. And yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you very much, Jana. Claudia, Sale, would you like to go on?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can
Go
go.
ahead.
Oh, or Sole, vas tú si quieres.
Claudia.
Okay, then I'll go. My question, the question that I I was the whole time with my skin like, I don't know how to say that in English, but it was so exciting to listen to you and like so emotional, and really just as Jana said everything perfectly. So same here, and I believe everywhere. So I wanted to ask you about the ecosystem that surrounds, well, you and Chepanis as a first beginning. And it's true that you were talking the whole time about it, about producers, about consumers, well, clients, and also about, well, everything that surrounds that project. So, but I find very complicated among time and among 50 years to maintain, well, those relationships. I believe some will just like stay on the way, but how you find that agents, that people really looking for the same objectives as you do, and in a really close way, like, well, I don't know if it was clear, but.
I mean, you're wondering how I have found the network of suppliers that I have.
Yeah, suppliers, and like it's, I believe it's one of those parts, because you also need some, I don't know, other supporters for your business, or because friends are some, but I don't know, maybe some other organizations that are supporting you, and also, well, yeah, everything that surrounds or the project or you in.
Well, I think that it's very important to pay people really well for their work. And this is what at the beginning brought many people to Chez Benny's, because we were willing to pay the real cost of the food and of everything that people brought to us. that we really valued, whether it was olive oil or tortillas or whatever it was. They were people that were producing food organically. They knew that we cared about that. And so it brought in all the people who had those same values. So the person who made our tables, he made them from redwood that had been fallen, from recycled wood. Then, it went on from that. Then we found an artist that was working in Mexico. And she worked with someone who made indigo dyed napkins. And so we bought the napkins from her. And it just went on like that. She told her friends, and then we got more things for the restaurant. But it's that network that is happening right now that we all have to pay attention to, looking at everything. Where did this cup come from? Who made it? How was it made? Where did the mud come from? Is it shipped a long distance? Is it close? It's all of those questions. And I am happy to report that you find the very best things that way. The most beautiful, the most handmade, the most, and you become friends. And these are your friends for forever. And wow, I just think of the woman who etches our glasses, and we have the glasses etched every year for the birthdays of the restaurant, for the edible schoolyard, and we sell them at the restaurant, and people have these memories, always. I remember when I was a kid, we got peanut butter in a little glass, and it was painted glass. And my mother kept all of those little jars. And that's what we drank our juice out of and our milk out of. We never threw them away. There was no throwing away. And we had a garbage can this big for a week of a family of 6. That was in the 50s. And so I know that this is possible. And we lived in New Jersey, where it was cold, and we never ate any food that was summer food in the winter, ever. We waited for the corn and tomatoes, and that's why I'm so in love with them.
It's amazing to see how 50 years are shaped with friends, and that it's.
And I always wanted to work with friends. Now, this is something I haven't said very often. Because you're working long hours and you want to be with people you like more than just people who can do the job well. You want people that you have a rapport with. And so I've only made a couple mistakes during the 50 years, and I had to say goodbye to only a couple friends. But I've never regretted that decision. Never.
Nice. That's beautiful to hear. It's not something that you usually hear the other way around, like never work with friends.
Never. I disagree.
Great. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
It was so nice to hear you. Sole, if you
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hello again, Alice.
Yeah.
We have already introduced ourselves. Most of my colleagues meet us, so we are not to spend more time. We need to learn a lot from you. So my question is, what are the biggest challenges or difficulties that you can find introducing gastronomy on schools, and how can young people help?
In terms of food in schools,
Yes.
how can we make that change? Well, I went to the school and I saw what was going on there. And I talked about it to my friends. And I said, how could this be happening, that our children are eating like this? And I went to talk to the principal. And he asked me to come and spend the day there. And I told him that I could help him if he were willing to let me. And that's when I had the idea of a garden in the school. I think it's very hard to go into the cafeteria of a school because those people are not paid very much money to do something that normally goes against what they think they should be feeding children. At least that's the situation in the United States. They're serving fast food to children who are gobbling it up, throwing it away, not sitting down. And it needs to come from a higher up place, an awareness really at the mayor of the city or the governor of the state. And I think you have a lot of power together. I mean, just as the Culinary Institute, to make an impression and be willing to even volunteer. I've always thought that it would be a great idea to have older people volunteer to come and shell peas or help in the, pat the tortillas or whatever. And they could have lunch with the students or in another place, but they could sit down and eat with them. But you could have this group of people to help. And I am working right now to try to change the food for the University of California in the whole state. And I feel like if we could do it at the University of California, we could do it in the country, we could do it in the world. So I am looking to have food become part of the carbon neutrality initiative that they already have established for 2025. And I said, why can't 100% organic regenerative food be part of that? Because food can be an economic engine. I mean, the food in schools, it's huge amount of money that they spend right now, and they're spending it on fast food. And we could take that same amount of money and spend it on slow food. And it's only the messages that come from the fast food industry that say organic food is too expensive, students don't like it, there's nothing to cook that's easy. That's all propaganda from the fast food industry. And so we have to demonstrate that we can do it for the same price. Serve it to the students. See that the cafeteria workers love it. And that's what's happened in a project here in in Richmond. It's called the Conscious Kitchen. And they started without asking the USDA, anybody in the government, whether they could buy from the local organic people. They just started buying directly, like I'm suggesting. And the food came into the kitchen and they had help. They brought a chef in who was willing to volunteer. Well, what an amazing program. What an amazing program. They do it in the same amount of money. The kids love it. They made the gymnasium into a lunchroom. They put up tables. They put tablecloths on. They put posters of food on the walls. After lunch, they take them down. They put away the tables and the chairs. The kids help. They never had, milk always came in a little container. Well, then they started buying it in the big container, much better for the dairy. And they brought it in and they poured kids glasses of milk. Well, I was there for lunch. I have never tasted milk like that. The kids drank it all. I drank it. So these are myths. And so I really recommend the demonstration of the idea. That's what I've been demonstrating at Chez Benny's for 50 years. That's what I did at the Edible Schoolyard for 25. Get an enlightened administrator, head of school, or head of the district. And we want to do this for the whole state of California. And I've been talking with the last president of the university, Janet Napolitano, and she had a UC Global Food Initiative during her presidency. And I know that the new president is incredibly enlightened, and all the people in his office are. So if we help him and really we make maybe a model of one campus, we have 10 campuses, and maybe there's already a model that's going at Santa Cruz, and I'm going to do this institute at Davis. And I want to do something at UCLA in Los Angeles. And every campus could have a special focus. And we could do it together. But I am sure that the students your age are going to come back to school and want to have a climate initiative, want to have a sense of equality, diversity, want to feed every student on campus. I mean, that's the shocking thing. So many students don't eat. How could that be? And so much food is wasted. But we could make such a great demonstration. I have no idea that with our collaboration, because I know when I've gone to amazing conferences, I went to one that Alex Italia did in Sao Paulo, and people around the world were talking about addressing all of these issues, and they asked me to speak as well. And somebody was talking about waste, and I just took my breath away. How he was thinking about every part of his restaurant. I want to say it was in Norway, but we talked about the composting machines developed in Korea. Wow, that they're making them for houses now, so that everything can be broken down and you could take it to the farmer in a big sack instead of having him have the time for it to do that naturally. It's like we have all the knowledge, but we need to collect it and spread that in terms of models around the world.
Thank you very much, Alice.
Thank you. I'm leaving with the phrase demonstrating of the idea. So,
Pardon me?
thank you very much for your advice, for your time. We hope to see you soon.
Inspired me to speech this morning.
Thank you very much, Alice, for your time and commitment. I think our minds are blowing with ideas now. Everybody has to take a notebook and write it immediately, please, and act tomorrow. Don't wait for next week. Start tomorrow or start tonight, because we are already here. It's evening for us. Oh, I think we really, like Claudia says, we really have to tattoo on our skin and our heart many things that we have been talking about. You have inspired us not only about, I'm speaking about food, friends, beauty, life, commitments, and it has been such a pleasure having you here. Hopefully it has inspired you also to see how big and how large your inspiration is for everyone. Here at the Basque Culinary Center, we already have many homework that you have already given to us. I'm thinking, oh my God, we haven't done anything in the campus, in the other campuses, so we should start immediately. So I think Jose Mari has already some homework to do already.
Yeah, I have some homework. I have taken some challenges for the future. So no, thank you so much. I mean, because it's such a boost of energy and values, and it is always great to listen to you and get your energy, Alice. So thank you so much. And we have some challenges. I'm saying seriously. So we have to do more, still more to do. Yeah. So thank you so much.
But this is our place of hope. And it's just, it is internationally, this is our place.
That's it.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So much.